The man jolts awake as Roman soldiers burst in, snatching his wife from his arms. The lead officer arrogantly declares she's now a slave, while the man is destined for the arena to entertain the crowds and appease the gods. However, no one expected this guy to survive against 4 fully armed gladiators. His fury for revenge is about to ignite and shake the entire Roman Republic.
I am Spartacus!
It's 74 BC. The Roman Republic launches the Third Mithridates War against the Kingdom of Pontus. Passing through the Thrace in Greece, Legatus Glaber seeks to recruit warriors from the local tribes. Although the Thracians despise the Romans, their greatest enemies were the barbaric Getae, who frequently pillaged and raped. Thus, when Glaber promises to help annihilate the Getae, the naive Thracians agree to cooperate without hesitation. The writers don't specify the protagonist's name, so we'll call him by the actor's name, Andy. After a passionate night with his wife Sura, Andy prepares to march off to war. However, Sura had a dream last night where her husband knelt before a red serpent, which she takes as an ominous sign. Andy brushes off her concerns, tearing a strip of cloth from his clothes and tying it around Sura's thigh as a symbol of his companionship.
Kill them all.
For you.
The Thracians are natural-born warriors, fierce and brave, unafraid of death, especially Andy, who not only fights prowess, but also inspires his comrades. However, the sly Glaber holds back his support, only swooping in with his Roman troops at the tail end of the battle to claim the victory. It's clear he's using the Thracians as cannon fodder, even giving them the worst supplies. Seeing Roman soldiers living in warm tents and feast on meat, the hot-headed warrior Drenus loses his temper.
My own shit would taste better.
He suggests ditching the army and heading back to their village, and many agree. Only Andy believes they should honor their commitment, arguing that if they don't wipe out the Getae, their tribe will never know peace. But Drenus isn't having it, and starts insulting Andy's wife. Unable to bear it, Andy kicks him away, and they end up in a brawl. Right in the thick of it, Glaber shows up and orders them to scout the enemy lines. Andy and Drenus gain a newfound respect for each other's strength and reconcile. They climb to the highest nearby peak and discover that the Getae, instead of retreating north as expected, are moving west. Andy immediately realizes they're planning to circle around and raid the Thracian villages. He reports this to Glaber right away, but strangely Glaber couldn't care less about this intel. Worried about his fellow villagers, Andy urges immediate pursuit of the Getae.
Dismissed!
Andy thinks Glaber's just in a bad mood, unaware that the Roman never intended to keep his promise. Glaber, who only got his position as legatus through his father-in-law's connections in the Senate, lacks the corresponding status and honor due to his young age and inexperience. If he doesn't achieve military success soon, his father-in-law Albinius' standing in the Senate could be in jeopardy. When Glaber's wife Ilithia hears about the barbarians' retreat, she pushes him to attack the forces of Mithridates instead to seize military glory. Sweetly rewarded and encouraged by his wife, the ambitious Glaber immediately decides to turn around and march towards the Black Sea. Upon hearing this order, Andy refuses, eager to pursue the Getae and protect his tribe. Seeing Glaber's aggressive insistence on breaking their deal, the Thracian warriors no longer compromise. They pounce like hungry wolves, wiping out Glaber's guards in the blink of an eye, before Andy can even try to stop them. Seeing the commander trying to flee and call for backup, Andy has no choice but to throw his spear pierce him. Worried that killing a legatus would provoke Rome's wrath, Andy spares the knocked-out Glaber. Meanwhile, Sura, out picking wild berries, runs into some Getae stragglers. These bloodthirsty savages have a thing for looting and rape, and women targeted by them usually meet a grim end. Just as Sura is in despair, a sharp sound of wind breaking comes from behind. With a cold expression like the god of war descending, Andy rushes into the enemy group and goes on a killing spree. Sura is the center of all his emotions, and anyone who dares harm her is signing their own death warrant. After eliminating all the barbarians, they find their village has fallen, leaving them no choice but to flee south away from the battlefield. The couple, having narrowly escaped death, spend the night expressing their longing for each other physically, with no need for words. But come morning, Glaber shows up with his men in hot pursuit. To get back at Andy, he sells Sura into slavery, while Andy and his captured tribesmen are set to be hauled off to the execution grounds. Glaber's battlefield setback forces him to retreat to Capua early. Learning his father-in-law is about to host a gladiatorial spectacle for the masses, Glaber hatches a plan to win public favor and downplay his failure using Thracian blood. The event's invitees include the owners of Capua's two largest gladiator training schools. First up is Quintus, who brings Barca, known as the Beast of Carthage, and Crixus, Capua's reigning champion. Hot on their heels, Solonius makes his entrance with 6 gladiators in tow. Quintus and Solonius are sworn enemies, locked in a years-long battle of wits and schemes to bring each other down. But Solonius, with his better connections to Capua's nobility, always seems to have the upper hand.
I shall witness his heart on the day, parted from his chest.
And I shall grip the knife.
Finally, Glaber shows up with 6 Thracian warriors include Andy, slated for execution in the arena to please the crowd. The Thracians are slack-jawed at the decadence before them, a feast for the senses with exquisite food and wine, indulgent men and women. It seemed worthwhile to feast their eyes before dying. Pitting heavily armored gladiators against Thracians armed with just swords is a recipe for a one-sided bloodbath. No matter how they attack, they can't breach the gladiators' defenses, ending up exhausted and at the mercy of their opponents. Just as Andy's turn approaches, he meets Drenis' disparate gaze. Even Drenis is one of the tribe's best, now lies lifeless on the arena's sand. The violent aesthetics of fierce fighting and spurting blood infected every spectator. Andy is shocked by this absurd and frenzied spectacle. Glancing at the corner where his fallen comrades' bodies are piled, his heart sinks even lower. Saved for last as the main event, Andy faces more than just a regular match. As he raises his sword and takes his stance, 3 different types of gladiators enter the arena. The crowd erupts in disapproval. The odds seem out of favor. It's clear this is Glaber's way of getting even, setting Andy up for a humiliating death. He's pinned all the blame for his military failure on the Thracians' disobedience, and he's got it in for Andy, who led the resistance. Despite Andy's nimble dodging of spears and tridents, he's caught off guard by a net sweeping his feet. Once down, he's at the gladiators' mercy. Instead of finishing him quickly, they toy with him, drawing out his suffering. As Andy struggles to his feet, he catches sight of a red snake on a shield. In a flash, he remembers his wife's dream and her parting words.
Kill them all.
Suddenly, he's filled with godlike strength and speed, reminiscent of when he saw the Getae trying to assault his wife. He has a reason to live. Sura is still waiting for him to rescue her. With his adrenaline soaring, the gladiators' attacks seem to slow down and full of flaws, and their limbs easily cut like butter. In the blink of an eye, only half of one gladiator is left barely clinging to life. This jaw-dropping display sends the crowd into a frenzy. As chants of "live" echo through the arena, Abinius hesitates to continue the execution, fearing a loss of public support. Glaber's face is very ugly, even losing his composure.
He gave me grievance. I will not see him freed.
Quintus, sensing Glaber's burning desire to see Andy dead, offers to buy him. In his current state, he probably won't survive long in Quintus' training grounds anyway. That way won't be considered against public opinion. Noticing Andy's fighting style resembles that of a legendary former Thracian king, Quintus dubs him Spartacus.
This Spartacus has proven himself in the arena. Grant him life.
As the crowd roars his new name, Andy feels like he's been reborn. Little does anyone know that this name will soon become a legend in the arena, and a nightmare for the Republic. Quintus bought Spartacus partly to please Glaber, as he was ambitious and eager to join the noble class. On the other hand, the 4 gladiators Spartacus killed belonged to Solonius, so Quintus bought him to piss his rival off. What Quintus doesn't realize is that this decision marks both the beginning of his rise to power and the spark that will lead to his downfall.